أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So inshallah we will continue with the fourth phrase of Surah Fatiha. In the past 2 weeks we started with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Last week we studied Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And then inshallah today we will continue with Maliki Yawmiddin. We are reading from the Ray's 15th Ray, and we need a reader. William, you look good. So since you didn't lose the eye contact, you don't have the text. This was where the confidence was coming from.
If you don't have the text, please ask people, don't be shy. They will send you the link.
Okay, now he has a text. So you didn't bring it. Okay, you are that old. Okay. Sister Aisha, do you have the text? Okay. Jazakallah khairan. And for the fourth phrase, let's read the firstly until secondly. So the fourth phrase is to the end of the document. Starting from the fourth phrase, it says the firstly, let's read that until secondly.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The fourth phrase, Maliki Yawmiddin, owner of the day of judgment. Here is a very concise indication of the proof contained in this phrase. Firstly, all the evidences that testify to the proof of al-masir wa ilayhi al-masir, and to him is your return, and to the resurrection and the hereafter at the end of part 1 of this lesson, similarly testify to the extensive truth of belief indicated by Maliki Yawmiddin, owner of the Day of Judgment. In order to display his perfection, power, and lordship, an all-glorious maker, a beauteous creator, an all-perfect Allah created the universe with all its atoms, planets, parts, and levels. With perfect wisdom, he continually assigns every being a duty, indeed, many duties, and makes them work. To display the eternal and endless manifestations of his names, he sends caravan after caravan. Indeed, he sends world after renewed traveling world. He sends tribes of creatures to this guest house of the world and to the arena of trial, which is worldly life. He records all their forms, actions, and states. These are recorded for the cinemas of the hereafter established in the world of similitudes through the cameras of the intermediate realm. Then, after releasing them from their duties, he sends other tribes, caravans, and flowing traveling worlds to take their place. These too perform duties and act as mirrors to the manifestations of his names. Is it then at all possible that there should be no realm of reward and punishment, no resurrection of the dead, no final judgment for human beings? For in this fleeting world, human beings respond with consciousness and intelligence to all the purposes of their Creator. They love him with all their capacity and cause themselves to be loved by him. They recognize him and make him known. They beseech him with endless prayers for everlasting happiness in the hereafter. Moreover, because they possess intelligence, they suffer endless pains. Therefore, with all their being, spirit, and capacity, they long for eternal life, which is pure pleasure. Could it ever be possible that for such a human being, there should be no abode of reward and punishment, no resurrection and gathering? God forbid, 100,000 times, God forbid.
Jazakallah khairan. So this is Malik Yawmiddin. He is the owner of the Day of Judgment. And so one of the major messages of the Quran after Tawheed is resurrection. And especially the initial part of Revelation, the Mecca period, there was a constant emphasis of Tawheed and then resurrection. So, and Quran makes many arguments about that. So it is so fundamental, first from the point of view of Quran's message, but equally, it must also be the most relevant thing for human being that it is being mentioned that frequently. The Quran is making it as a topic because it must be as important in humans' life. But then, of course, the question is, Quran does not speak without any evidence, like it doesn't simply claim. So for such a central claim of Quran, how can I be a witness? Because for the matters of belief, like belief in God, belief in resurrection, belief in prophethood and whatnot, we say, I bear witness to that. And how do you bear witness to something that you do not see? Because I'm witnessing for that. So in this regard, it is so central, but of course the question is, and it's part of Surah Fatiha as well, that is at the very beginning, Malik Yawmiddin. How do I know? How do I bear witness to this truth? How can I be sure, certain to bear witness to it? After this intro, I can take your comments for the next 15 minutes. We will give a break after 15 minutes for Maghrib. We will continue afterwards. But what is your take from this? Oh, and also, just I would like to give another tiny detail. In this text, author was referring at the very beginning to the end of the previous text. This is what I copy-pasted in here after the arrow that you see there. The previous text was about an explanation for the phrase La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu yuhyi wa yumeet wa huwa hayyul la yamut. It goes like this. And at the end, wa ilayhil masir. So when he explains wa ilayhil masir, our return is back to him. He explains this topic. So I pulled it from there into the text here. The part that we read is from there. But I guess, yes, this is the intro. What do you think about author's presentation here in regards to Malik Yawmiddin, or the creator being also the owner of Day of Judgment? Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. As you said, its importance is, I guess, set forth to us through the Quran, right? But then the question remains of, is it that important to me in my day-to-day life? And one way that I'm thinking about it now is through this very clear, through this little human. You know, here in this fourth phrase, he says, to display the eternal and endless manifestations of his name, he sends caravan after caravan. He sends world after renewed, traveling world. And he records all their forms, actions, and states. And at least one, I mean, as a parent, one particular experience that I'm going through, and if you are a parent, you've experienced it probably, and if you're not a parent, you'll experience it in a different form or different context. But my experience is that there's this little human in front of me, and he's almost 1 year old, and it's very exciting. But at the same time, like, I see this shift in his consciousness, in his behavior as he's growing up. And of course, I want him to grow up, like, it's a blessing. But at the same time, there's this sort of mourning because it feels like I'm losing all these other versions of him, right? These younger, these babyier versions of him, the version of him without any teeth, the version of him that will only crawl. You know, he took his first step yesterday, so we were saying, oh no, like, there's going to come a day when he's never going to crawl again. And he's very cute when he's crawling. So how do I handle the grievance of that? And it may seem a little, I guess, like, oh, this is what you're connecting it to, but like, this is, I think, how the reality or the necessity of my human need for resurrection manifests in day-to-day life, right? There is something that is transient, that is passing away, and I want it recorded. I mean, he sees me hold up this phone over him, hovering like in this sort of dystopic way, trying to capture everything, trying to keep it from myself, trying to make an archive. But it's futile because it can't capture it. It can't record it in its full essence, right? And so as a human being, I'm like, how do I reconcile this need to hold on to all these different realities that are coming and passing, coming and passing? And, you know, on a different level, like now Philly is entering its state of period where it's actually kind of nice, and you can kind of be romantic and be like, oh, it's actually kind of a beautiful city because all the cherry blossoms are coming out, and it's very short-lived, but inshallah. tomato. But like, and this was brought up by one of the brothers last week as well. Like, those blossoms are going to come very quickly, and they're going to disappear, seemingly disappear very quickly. So I can very closely witness the fact that, yes, there's a caravan after caravan. There's an existence that is continuously being given and then taking, a new one being given, a new one being taken. So I guess what I'm trying to highlight is that I think if we look within ourselves, whether it's blossoms, whether it's a baby, whether it's something else in our life, there's things that we want to hold on to, but we aren't able to, and we want them to be preserved in their perfect form in one way or another. And that need within us is given, right? We find it. We don't say, oh, I want to have this need. It's there. And so the one who gives it must, like the very fact that it exists is a kind of promise that it will be fulfilled in some way or form. And I think that gestures, that points in a very strong and significant way to the necessity of resurrection, inshallah.
Any other comments?
Question.
Question? Go ahead.
What do they mean by the intermediate realm here?
Okay, that was it. Okay, so let me read that part. He records all their forms, actions, and states. These are recorded for the cinemas of the hereafter, established in the world of similitudes, through the cameras of the intermediate realm. This is the term that author is using. So let's expand this, because the term that he uses in there is a Quranic term, which is used as like hereafter is akhirah, but then intermediate realm is barzakh, like which a word that Quran uses. But what is barzakh? Barzakh is like generally understood to be as the world that you experience in the grave. Like it's an intermediate realm between this life and the next life. But in here, author is overloading this term because how can I experience such a thing so that I can conclude about something that will come? Because this is something that's inaccessible to me. I haven't even entered the grave yet. So I don't know what I'm going to see in the grave. Yes, Prophet ﷺ gives us explanations about what the grave life is going to be like, what the afterlife is going to be like, gives us descriptions. But those descriptions are a message for me in here. So I should be able to relate to them in some sense. Otherwise, it becomes futile. So if we go back to the text and try to see what the author is doing with this, like he talks about he records all their forms, actions, and states. Like things are being recorded in this life. Do we agree with that? In the seeds, yes. Like for every seed is pretty much life story of the previous plant. Likewise, it is also the life story of the upcoming plant. Like it is the end of the previous plant and the beginning of the next plant. And this is happening every year across the board. That recording is there, and also the resurrection is there at the what's it called, in terms of fruits and plants. This is something that we observe. So recording is being done in there. Now, when we talk about human's grave, what is human's end of life? This is when you finished your life and you're put into grave. You're put under the soil, pretty much like when you put the seed, which is the product of previous summer life of another plant, and you're putting under the soil. So grave life, which is barzakh, is similar to a seed. So actually we can relate to what it means barzakh, because it's being revealed before our eyes in every spring, but not for human beings, are relative to plants. And it's not only being preserved, but also being revealed and resurrected. So in this regard, we can relate to that. A second way we can relate to barzakh again is every moment of human life. If you think about every moment of our life, it is yet another transition moment. Like this moment, past is gone, future is not created. Like the moment that you live in is similar to a grave, if you like. Like you can neither go back to the past nor penetrate into the future. You're pretty much stuck in the moments. So it's another type of a grave life. And if we pay attention to how what we have done in the past are being still, if you like, haunting us sometimes at the moment of our grave. Are you guys, for example, sometimes do you regret for the things that you did in the past? Do you regret for the things that you did in the past? And still, sometimes you are worried about the future, or sometimes hopeful about the future. So this is another way of looking at the grave life, because the moment being your grave, to the extent that you live a meaningful life, your moment can be like a paradise-like life if the past doesn't bring you worries, but it brings you joy. Because if you lived a meaningful life, the past will bring you joy rather than regret. And the future will bring you hope rather than worries. So this is again another way of understanding what barzakh can mean. And it's a Quranic term. Barzakh is being mentioned as where the two seas do not mix with each other, the way Quran presents it. And that is the past and the future do not mix. You're just in the middle of it. You're living this moment. So I guess this is what I briefly understand from there, although it was not too brief. Any comments that you would like to add before Maghrib? We will give a break for Maghrib, but still we have 2 minutes if anybody wants to. It might be a question, might be a comment. Okay, Sister Aisha.
I guess for me, it's just a little bit difficult to conceptualize the idea of the necessity for a resurrection when because he describes like very positive things and like the beauty, and some of the examples that were given were like the beauties and the things that we see. It's hard for me to conceptualize the necessity of resurrection from that aspect. When I think about the necessity of resurrection, I just think about like the injustices or like the negative things. Like when it says like, is it then at all possible that there should be no realm of reward and punishment? That connotes like there's something that connotes more negativity and like, reward and punishment, meaning that there is like a hierarchy between the people in terms of what their behaviors meant in the arena of trial. But in terms of like the beauties, I see them, alhamdulillah, I appreciate them, but I don't know how to think about it in terms of like there's being a necessity of resurrection just because we see a lot of beauties in the world. So that's just a question someone can
That's a
explain.
very beautiful question. Do you agree that it's a good question? That means you need to think about it after the prayer. I mean, don't mess up your prayer. And inshallah, let's continue with this question after the prayer. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Let's continue from where we were left. So there was a question. I will try to paraphrase the question. Sister Aisha was mentioning that generally when it comes to afterlife, for justice, like for the things that were done wrong in here, finding for justice, we can relate to that there must exist an afterlife. But for reward, for good things, expectation of afterlife, does it really require that there must exist an afterlife for good things? Was a question mark. She asked that aspect of it. Okay. So any comments? We gave more than enough time for people to think about. Any answers? Oh, Sister Zerine. Okay. Can we get the other microphone? Yes.
Alhamdulillah, as I'm eating this food, I feel like I don't want good things to end. So I guess maybe the necessity of an afterlife from observing beauty is that in addition to the beauty, I see that the beautiful things are also going away, like the description of the caravan. There's always this transition, new things are coming and then going, and I find myself wanting to hold on to the things that I find beautiful. So wanting this meal to last as long as I can. Yeah, just wanting like good things in my life to keep going. But as I maybe pay attention a bit, it's not, they don't keep going, I guess, for me. There's always an ending. And I guess sometimes that can mean that I'm like constantly looking for other things to take the place of whatever I'm seeking. So yeah, I guess I would just say like I don't like things that end, like especially good things to end. So maybe that's a reason why the afterlife is so necessary, because I'm not in a situation where the good things are lasting forever.
I'm not sure if I'm playing devil's advocate, but I would like it, like, I would like a better example that's not just like, it's a beautiful example. And I feel like no matter how I say it, it's gonna sound weird, but like, how can I bear witness with my heart with the explanation of this is what I want? You know, like, I want a lot of stuff, and just that want doesn't mean that it should be this way. And like, I do know that there's like a longer chain of like a longer thought process. Like, it's not just like this is what I want and therefore I should get, but like, can we make that concise? Because I don't think it should be like just like, oh, I definitely want this, or I'm not made a different way, and therefore this is 100% going to happen.
Very good question. Sister Maria is brewing something there? No? Okay. And this is Sister Zerine. When she makes like this, that means she's brewing something. So I thought same. Okay. It's for you. Okay. Any comments about that? Yes. Sister Zaha.
Adding on to the question, but because we previously talked about how when we have a need, when we have hunger given to us and hunger satisfied, There's a need given and need is satisfied. And you reflect on many examples of this happening in your life. And so when there are needs that are not satisfied yet, or they're not fulfilled yet, you are kind of falling back on like whatever is that already happened and whatever is already been taken care of, as and kind of extrapolating it to, because this need has been fulfilled by the one who gave it, this need must also be fulfilled at some point. And it must be that there's a greater wisdom in the delay. And perhaps one way to look at it is we use that as an opportunity to build patience or build God consciousness, which aligns with the purpose that we're sent to this earth with. But then, like Sister Natalia is saying, you will have a lot of needs that, I mean, there's no guarantee that's going to be fulfilled. It's still an extrapolation from what you're, it is ultimately coming down to having faith that eventually, if not this life, in the hereafter, the Creator must be fulfilling this. So there's still an aspect of just having faith, right? And I understand the difficulty in trying to bear witness when we talk about faith here. It's more so like it's you're inferring something from something that already happened.
Very good. So just to I mean, this was a very good way of putting it, because now let's clarify something. Like if I was willing to make a tea right now, and I put water to this bucket and turn on the oven, when it gets to 100, it would boil, is our expectation. And even we call it not belief, but it will happen. Like we are sure. Why are we sure that it will happen? Why will it boil when it comes to 100?
Or experience.
Because of experience, right? We have seen it happening for billions of times and whatnot, and then we say it will happen the next time as well. This is more like even the atheist believes in that, right? The atheist believes that water will boil. It's a belief, but we are sure that the atheist believes in that, the believer believes in that. But let's see how the believer believe in that. Because for atheist mindset, it is like, it just happens by itself. This is a law, which doesn't make sense, but let's call it as it is. From a believer's point of view, what should be the case? Like you're familiar with our line of thought in these discussions. Just to fast forward. So you would say that there must be a maker of this, because the fire itself doesn't really boil the water. And this one, it is his habit, if you like, saying that, oh, if you keep the water over the oven for this long, I guarantee you, I will boil it. This is the believer's version of being sure that it will boil. Atheist version is, it's a law, it boils. From believer's point of view, this law is called the law of wisdom, and the Creator guarantees you that if you do it like this, I will give you boiled water, right? It's again a belief, but it's a certainty, because I am sure. I have seen him boiling the water for me for thousands of times. Next time, it can boil, it cannot boil, because unless he does it, you don't know, really. But from past experience, he's already disclosing himself to you, saying that if you do this, I will do that. And then for the next time, you're sure that if I do it again, he's going to give that, right? Nothing is different when it comes to what we were discussing, right? So he has been, this is why the author started by saying, he has been sending those caravans every spring, loads of new fruits, vegetables, animals, everything is being sent. In winter, they're being taken away. Next year, it's being sent, which is another law of resurrection that's taking place in the universe. Also, another law that takes place is there are needs and the needs are being addressed by the same creator. If there's a need, he addresses. If there's a need, he addresses, right? Which is another law, but this we are now taking laws, as Imam Nursi has been doing. Every law is a divine name, manifestation of a divine name, like merciful, sustainer, wise, right? Now there's this other aspect of how about my needs, because I have this endless needs. I don't want an end, but the life itself is ending. It looks like death is going to take me away. How about response to this message? Is this going to be addressed? Like this is what Sister Zareen was mentioning. I do enjoy food, and he keeps sending the food next time and next time, but it looks like eventually a time will come and it's going to be cut off. Like the grave is waiting before me. None of my great-grandfathers came back. So it looks like no come back. Is this really the case? Or then to the extent that now I know, as much as I am sure that he is the one who consistently keeps boiling the water, responding to this need, he would respond to that other need because of the same experience. Okay, two hands. Let's start from here.
So I'm thinking about it in this way, right? Like I see all these needs being fulfilled, for example, animals, humans, but I also see that they're only fulfilled for a limited time. Like I see a definite end to all of these, like there's this cycle that I see. So there's an animal, it gets it's born, the mother feeds it, it's raised, it eventually grows to an age where it grows old and then it dies. Like why can't I stick with that explanation that my needs are only going to be fulfilled for this specific period of time, as I see around me? Like if for example, yes, trees are like you see the resurrection in there, but you also see death. Like if your cat dies, you don't get that same cat back. So why not? Like why are we going the other way, not this way? Like why is not the conclusion that it is limited? Like your needs will only be fulfilled up until this time, and then you're not.
If you would like to add a word on top of your husband's word, go ahead. If you are courageous enough.
I feel like I thought of something barely tangential, but on the same line, right? And it's that so we have good inspirations and bad inspirations, right? We have good thoughts and bad thoughts. We want goodness, but we also want bad things in general. Like I think of a lot of unfair things that I want, a lot of selfish things that I want. And we've established that a lot of the bad things that we want are there to guide us, right? We don't like when unjust things happen, but we kind of want them for ourselves sometimes. And I feel like when I think of wanting a lot of something, a lot of times that can feel selfish. Like in practice, like if I want like a lot of money, I might say like, I might go down a rabbit hole and feel like, probably not. So how do I know that this desire to want never-ending things is not bad? Like, how can I determine that that's not a bad feeling? Because, like, again, God will not give us, inshallah, bad things. He doesn't promise. Or I hope you understand like the way I'm saying it, right? He's not gonna give unfair, he's not gonna be unfair. So how do I know that wanting everything is not unfair?
So just to slightly modify that question, I guess at this point, our main question then becomes, this desire for eternity is there, never end, like the desire for, or hatred for end. Like human cannot accept or bear with an end or a death. So in this regard, your question then becomes, how do I know that this feeling itself is a desirable feeling in the first place? This is the question. Father Birkan, what do you think?
I was planning to raise my hand. So
I want to start with Sister Aisha's question. I think it will guide us for the other part as well. So when she said, you know, I don't see how the goodness or good things can lead to the necessity of the hereafter, but I can see it with your words, like the bad things or injustice, which makes perfect sense. So maybe we should start from saying, when we study certain topics, right? Just like everything in life, when we study children, for instance, or when we study plants, right? We approach them from different perspectives. And all these different perspectives, come together. And when we put them together, it makes sense. When we study plants, for instance, the sister Zarin will look at it from a biological perspective, right? Brother Abdurrahman will look at how the information is processed inside the plant, right? Brother Zaria will look at from an aesthetic perspective, right? How colors come together, etc. I'm just trying to make his wife happy. And when all these different aspects come together, when we say that, okay, now I understand what plant is, right? If you just give me a biological explanation, for instance, it wouldn't make sense by itself only, right? On top of that, there are the physical aspects, chemical aspects, aesthetics, all this. When topic becomes more and more complicated, all these different aspects, even more needed, right? So the same goes with the idea of resurrection as well. There are many different aspects of it. And one you mentioned, for instance, the injustice, is one big aspect that points us that maybe there is something called in the hereafter. And then other aspects come. Another one, the order we see in this universe, as the people were explaining, our desire for unending, etc. When we put them all together, we say that, okay, now I'm sure that there must be such and such thing. This is what we do in every aspect of the life, right? In science as well. We see one observation and we don't say that, okay, now I know it. Here is your law. We cannot do that, right? We have to study it from all different aspects. We have to put all different experiences, evidences, observations together. So in that sense, yes, you are talking about another aspect which is not studied in this text. That being said, even when we look at the injustice part, let's start try to understand what we mean with that, really. Because when we talk about injustice, we usually keep it very simple. As if we see someone doing something bad and we curse, silently. Damn you, I hope you go to hell, right? That's what we mean usually, like the layman's terms. When I see injustice, I know that there's hereafter. This is what I mean, right? Let's go beyond that. Okay? What we really mean, injustice points to the hereafter. When I see something bad or injustice, right? What's happening in Lebanon, let's say, okay? I see all these fights, I see all this destruction, and I can say that I don't like it, man. I don't like it, so this is bad. Damn you. But I can also say that if I'm honest, I don't own this feeling, right? I see some destruction, I see something bad, and this feeling of dislike is being created in me, right? And this feeling repulses me almost, right, from what I observe. And I start questioning again, why? Why? Because I see order, wisdom, mercy in the creation, right? I am given with such expectations. And when I see something against order, against mercy, this feeling is created in me, pulling me again towards mercy. So in other words, when I say injustice makes me think about the hereafter, actually what I mean is that the mercy and order in the creation that I keep experiencing, and this feeling that calls for the order and the mercy tells me that there's hereafter. It is again the order and the mercy or beauty in the creation that points to hereafter, even when I see injustice. Okay? Let's open up a bit, more so that it will also help with the other part, that the part that Sister Natalia asked. When I see something injustice and this feeling is created in me, which calls me toward what again? The order and the mercy. It is also a promise. It is also a promise that the creation is nothing but an order and mercy, and you will experience it. That's a call. Okay? And through this promise, as if somebody is promising me that this cannot be the truth, the destruction, right, cannot be the truth. And there is another truth that you are yearning for, right? This promise holds me or tells me that there is hereafter. My beloved one dies, right? I'm praying for the janaza, right? Let's say my mom, may Allah, give her health, inshallah. But let's say my mom dies and I feel sorrow, right? Terrible. Following the same, the idea, I see it as a promise. Why I don't like it? Because the idea that I lost my mom, she is no more, as people say, right, makes me hurt. And this feeling as if telling me that this idea that she's gone is wrong one. You don't like it. Whoever creates this feeling, whoever created this death, whoever created you with this feeling, tells you that this is not, this idea of loss is not liked. Okay? So it's a promise that she's not lost. My feeling. So I can see the reality in this way, going back to now Natalia's question. What do we mean when we say, I don't like it or I like it? I want this, I don't want this. You don't want or diswant anything. You just find yourself wanting something. You just find yourself not wanting something. So the right way to analyze or understand your wishes, your desires, your feelings is the question, what it means. What is it that my feeling, my desire is telling me? So my desire is a messenger, pulls me towards something. And the text says the return is to him. What it means, if you study, if you listen, your feelings, your desires, you will realize that they are calling you towards him. Return to him. From your soul's understanding, of this reality, return to the true understanding of the reality. You see injustice, and the feeling says, no, 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 return to the justice. Find the justice, expect the justice. This message now is a meaningful message. It's not just mere wish. I hope this will happen, hence it has to be happen. No, no, no. We're just talking about an evidence that is created in you. Evidence points you that there must be a continuation. By itself is not even enough. It's just an evidence. So you should take it as evidence and see whether there are other evidences as well or not. Just the point is then not discarding it. Just take it as an evidence, take it serious, because it's not you that created this feeling. With your empty wishes, you find yourself with this desire. What does it mean? You have to ask this question.
So on that note, I think that precisely there is where I'm confused on, and I think it's hard to explain, but I'm not sure what the answer is. Like, I'm not sure what I feel when I think of wanting stuff not to end or disliking end. Because like wanting everything for myself feels selfish. So, but there are other, this is what I'm saying, that there are other bad things that are not accompanied by a bad feeling. To make that clear, like, I might be unfair to my coworker, and I sharked my way up the ladder, and it doesn't feel bad to me, right? But that is bad, right? Like, that's pretty bad. So what if, because I don't feel like, what if my feeling of wanting everything or wanting eternity, what if it's bad? Like, it could be bad. Someone could tell me, like, oh, Natalia, like nah, that's, I don't feel that way. I feel like Allah is telling, like, the way I experience this feeling is enjoying your limits, or, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think that there's I don't feel like that feeling is strong towards, I will continue giving it. I'm not sure how to like label that feeling.
Let's talk about the selfishness, like the bad thing that you give example. Some people, for instance, want everything for themselves, right? I want all the money, this especially rich people. There's no end for them. Like, they want more and more and more. You can just read this again. They feel that way. They want this way. And you conclude that it's a bad thing because it's created by them anyway, right? This feeling. So it can be a bad thing. You can see the same thing as, no matter what you have in this reality, it won't be enough for you. Your heart will not be satisfied. And this is truth. You call it selfish or not, doesn't matter. It is a truth that no matter what I give you, it won't be enough for you, because your heart wants and deserves and can have more. It's again a promise. Even for these people, they read it in a different way, wrong way maybe, but the promise itself is the true promise. There is no end to the wealth. And your heart will not be satisfied with the limited wealth. This is what this feeling is telling to them. They read it wrong. They say, no, no, no. I will try to satisfy my heart with worldly, limited things. I will try it.
And then the creator says, okay, try it. It won't happen. But your desire to have everything, there's nothing wrong with that. This is humanity. Because you are created for everything. You want to, you act bad to your coworkers. Why? Because you want to be successful, even more successful than anyone else, right? There's nothing wrong with that. This feeling itself as a messenger, it says you are created for perfection. No matter what title you are given, it won't be enough for you. Seek for perfection, this feeling says. But you will not find it, this perfection in this life, in this your work. You read it wrong. You say, no. I will satisfy this need by getting a better and better title. So again, the promise with your desire is the right one. How you try to fulfill this promise is the wrong.
Just to wrap up what was being discussed and also clarify the question. So we didn't come to Ahmed's question yet, but the question was, what if, like, in the discussion, we are discussing it as this humans' dislike for death and end, and humans' desire for never-endingness, eternity is there, and it's not being fulfilled in this world. An author's point was that like he keeps satisfying those needs. He keeps sending caravans of creation every season just to fulfill the supplication, the asking of your small stomach. How about this super deep desire of human for eternity? Is he going to leave this unanswered? And Natalia's question was, sometimes I do have desire for what we consider as bad things. Like I would like to break my neighbor's window just because I like the sound effect of window shattering, right? Like this feeling is there. I find myself with this weird feeling, and I do enjoy a glass breaking sound, but not mine, my neighbor's. So how do I know that this desire for eternity is not yet another such incorrect feeling? This was the question. So how am I going to know that this is a good feeling? But I think in this regard, Brother Birkan's framing was nice. So the beginning part of it, like the feeling itself, but how do I read the feeling? This is where things are starting to get wrong. So you want to get more, you want to collect more, you want like infinitely more. But then trying to satisfy it in this life in the expense of Abdurrahman's glass is the wrong thing. The question rather should be, this feeling is given to me, but it looks like trying to fulfill it in this life is not feasible and practical. Because I don't want to break my own window. And breaking Abdurrahman's window is not a good idea either, because if Abdurrahman breaks my window, I wouldn't like it either. So like, I know that this aspect of it is wrong. But then, okay, Ali, go upstairs. Ali. So, but reading the same feeling, the correct version of that feeling is, the desire is there and it's not being fulfilled in here. So it then becomes, if you think about it, it then becomes such an existential problem for a human being, because everything boils down to that. You can extrapolate anything that you enjoy. It might be the candy, whatever you like, you enjoy it more, but it never comes to an end. If only, even if you're super rich and you get the candy that you love the most, infinitely amount, after a point you start getting bored of the candy, and you want a world in which you don't get bored of this candy, like, which doesn't exist, right? So this desire is there and it's not being fulfilled in here. Then the question comes, as the author is now mentioning, it looks like the universe is being created in a way that the maker is making himself known through his actions, making himself loved by me. But then this weird taste is being in my mouth at the end, if it's going to come to an end. It doesn't go well together. This is the problem. And the author says, this is an indication that there's no end. There must be a response to that desire because he put that desire in the first place. It's a promise that it will happen because, as the famous saying is, if he didn't want to give, he wouldn't give the want. Like the desire for asking is given. The desire for more is given by him in the first place. If it was not going to be fulfilled, giving it becomes like the desire for asking for more is put in you, and that feeling itself becomes why you hate God. If there's no afterlife, like metaphorically speaking, God would be shooting himself in the foot. I don't know if this is a proper way to say it. It's not a good way? Okay. So, like, why? This is why you would say he gave this desire for unending life, and it's not being fulfilled in here. So, therefore, it points that it's a promise that he will give. And I guess going back to, I don't know if that point was making any sense with the oven and the water boiling and whatnot, because this is how author is taking it. He says, especially in the 10th word, I think this group of people, maybe a good number of you guys were not here when we were studying the 10th word. In the past, we studied a portion about resurrection. Author's general attitude when he studies resurrection is going through divine names, and every divine name becomes a pattern that you observe in this creation, how you get to know him. And once you're sure about him, then you rely on that, pretty much like you are sure about the mercy of your mom, you are sure about wisdom of your teacher based on your past experience. And when they say, oh, next month such and such is happening, you rely on this experience. This is how you know that person. So it's not becoming like a wishful thinking. It's not like, what if he doesn't or he changes his mind? Like, it's a personality. This is how human functions, how we understand. So this aspect is that. But what was Ahmed's question?
Like, it was that I also see death as frequently as I see spring. Like, I see animals being born, raised, and then they die. Like, how come we're not seeing that, oh, there is a definite end? Like, if I have a cat, I have a cat. Like, let's say I have a pet and it dies and I don't see it coming back. Like, why isn't that a clear indication that it's never coming back and that life is limited? And then also, like, I don't know, like my brain has stopped working. I've been trying to think of other examples of resurrection, right? So one clear example to me was like spring flowers, right? Like, there are some trees that I didn't even know existed outside my house because they were literally dead in that sense. And now that they're blooming again, it's like, oh wait, you're alive again. But like, even Prophet Ibrahim had the conversation with Allah where he asked, like, show me resurrection. And as far as I remember, it was like birds that were chopped up and then they somehow flew together, and like that was resurrection to him. Like, how come he wasn't shown just, oh, look at this flower, like it dies and look, it blooms again? That's resurrection. Like, I don't see evidence of that kind of resurrection, right? Like, I don't see a cat that I owned for 12 years and then it's alive again. And it's like, oh no, definitely I'm getting like resurrected again. So it's hard for me to, yeah, I'm having a hard time making it make sense.
So any comments, any questions, comments before I start my not so short? So for the first part, let's use another example which will clarify things for us a little bit. So actually both are related. So when my question about resurrection comes to mind, what is the question? Am I going to be given life? Right? Because this is the question. I definitely know that death is there and I will die, but my concern is, am I going to be given back this life again, or am I going to keep experiencing the life? This is the question. And when the question is as such, multiple questions follows, right? Definitely, I do not give life to myself, so I am in need of somebody sustaining me, giving me life, right? But then the question becomes, is there someone who can give me life? Is that one capable? Does this one have a reason to give me life? Right? Has this one ever given me life before? Like, did I see a previous example of, like, as much as I answer those questions, then these are going to clean up the doubts about it, right? But all those questions are about whom? All about the giver of life, right? Not about me in this case. And based on my experience with him, interaction with him, I come to that conclusion. So far, so good? Good. So now I'm going to give an example. Imam Nursi gives the example of a river. When you look at like a waterfall, let's say, in the waterfall, you see a lot of bubbles coming out. When you look at the bubble, you see the reflection of sunlight. And as the bubble bursts, reflection dies, but the next bubble comes with another reflection. What does this tell you? This tells you that this is just a reflection. It's not light itself. What I observe in the bubble is pointing to in this metaphor, ever-existing sun, rather than momentarily bursting bubbles where a small, minuscule sun exists within them. It doesn't exist there, right? So likewise, now you are a living being who is like a bubble. We do observe life in you. That's going to burst. Your children is going to be living, and then they will burst their children. But what does all this show? It shows you about an everlasting alive being, right? So in this regard, everything points to him. Then the question will become, does he have a reason to resurrect me? Does he have the capability to resurrect me? Did he ever did this? Would he ever do it again? If those questions could be answered, then nothing is left. So in this regard, now let's come back to you, your question. I'm trying to reframe your question. So I am given life, but I am dying. So I do observe that he keeps giving life and he keeps giving death as well. Why is death not the norm, but rather life? I am looking at it as the giver of life. The giver of life is ever living. And then in this context, now author bringing your own experience into the picture, as Brother Birkan was emphasizing. What did he put in your heart? Although he gives this life and eventually it looks like it's going to burst, but he also put this desire that it should never burst. Then I go back and ask him, can you give me life again? And he says, yeah, I have been giving it for millions of years. Just look at the past spring and see how much life I give. I am capable. Oh, after something dies, though, can you give it back again? He says, look at the seeds. The tree has died. I have recorded its life. And here comes. This is how Prophet ﷺ and Quran is describing your, deeds. Everything is being recorded. What we call DNA is yet another deed. Everything was recorded, and now in spring it's being resurrected. The Creator says, don't you see, I already do that. And you say, oh, I have those memories, but my memories, are they going to come back? Especially if I age, like my grandfather, Alzheimer's, or this or that, things are being forgotten. So I am the one that recorded. Did you record it yourself, or I am the one that recorded? And then I asked the question, would you be able to retrieve it though? He says, I have written it in the first place. Like, so as much as those questions finds their answers and they clean up the doubts, then what is left behind? I think our suspicion, and I will go back to Sister Zaha's question, like the certainty part of it, and today William was also asking it. William was asking it in the form of yes, theoretically, we are convinced that water doesn't quench me. But each and every time I drink water, and I feel like since quenching comes from there, it's water that quenches. Like my feeling is not there. My intellectual conclusion, yes, God creates satiation. But when it comes to my day-to-day life, it feels like, oh no, I'm thirsty, and again, I go and drink water. I don't say that, oh, let me drink water so that God creates quenching in me. That's not how my brain is working, right? This is the part that requires work on our end. This is what that means. Because our example today was, still, I guess you guys have been using Amazon for how many years, right? You never go and hug the FedEx guy because they brought you something. You know that it's not the FedEx guy who gives you this gift. You know that somebody placed the order. The guy is just a delivery guy. You say thank you out of courtesy, but the guy doesn't know you, doesn't care about you, and you never even give it a second thought. When it comes to your mom, for example, your relationship with your mom, since it's a long-established relationship, and you're sure about her sincerity on this relationship, you're sure about her mercy, because you tested it so many times in your life, you have no issue about that. When it comes to our conviction about our Creator, if it is just once a week in a discussion, that the idea is being kindled here and there, and then I dive into my daily life again and live a life where things happen by itself, I mean, isn't this expected? So this is why, ideally, why we have this 5 daily prayers. Like the daily prayer is supposed to be the time where, as much as I do it consciously, I will be renewing this togetherness. Like you're not being together with your mom 5 times a day nowadays, right? But you are being, or at least invited to be together with your Creator 5 times a day. If I were, to the extent that I do this consciously, this relationship is supposed to be established. So yes, ideally, or at least this is the hope, this is the goal, we should be reaching a point where really when you drink water, you truly start with Bismillah, in the name of Allah. And at the end, you offer your thanks and praise again to Allah. This was possible as demonstrated in Prophet's life. There I am in this. It is because of me, not because of the message being hard or wrong or anything. It's just showing that we need to study more. That's what it shows. So all these questions are very beautiful questions. These are coming from where we are. And honestly, this is where we are because of the way we were raised up. And like a convert asks this question, a non-convert, a Muslim asks the same question. We are on the same page in this regard. Like, it's not like, oh, I have been in here for the 7 generations. Our family have been Muslim, more Muslim than you or whatever. Like, we are on the same page. So in this regard, genuinely, we need to put effort in here. And to the extent that we consciously ask, and we should consciously or ask Creator to increase our enthusiasm, or what's the word for hayra? Awe, like being in awe with the Creator's creation. This was a supplication of the Prophet, ﷺ, Allah, increase me in awe, was his dua. This is something that we need to work on. So I think this is the bottom line that I can say. Any comments, questions?
There's also one aspect of it. Again, just it will be repetition, but I think this is really important. Only when we put all these different aspects together, it becomes a belief. Otherwise, just because I want something, it's not a conclusion. Just because, I see an order, it's not by itself, it's not the conclusion. But when we put them together, it becomes a conclusion, just like everything else. Another aspect is this idea of law. And we should take it very seriously. Like author keeps saying that there's a law of mercy in this creation. There is a law of saving, what is the word you used for house? Preservation. There's a law of preservation in this life. There's a law of wisdom in this life. To the extent we see them as law, not just memorize, we see them as a law. And they will help us to understand things that are apparently difficult to understand. So for instance, in science, what we do, when we come up with such laws, we say there's a law of preservation of energy. Okay? Then I see some examples, and there are some examples in life, right? I see an energy source or energy, or let's say a manifestation of energy. A light is blinking. I don't see the source though, right? There are such examples. Other day I was talking about this. Maybe in my basement there's a heater. There's a light blinking. I checked everywhere. I couldn't find any, the power source. No connection to the grid, no batteries, but the light is blinking. So it is there, just like that is there, right? But I'm sure there must be somewhere a light source. I don't see it, but there must be. Why? Law of, as I name it, law of preservation of energy. Okay? This law, these past experiences, and how it relates to everything else in the reality. By the way, laws are not just, the accumulated experiences. They become laws when we see how they relate to everything else as well in the creation. Okay? So same way, when I look at the creation, what I see everywhere, nothing is wasted. Nothing. You cannot see any exception. Sometimes you think there is a waste. You look carefully, you see, oh no, it's not wasted. I threw an apple, right? We talk about this example, right? The spoiled children was given everything, right? He eats an apple. He says, okay, I'm bored, throws on the ground, to the swimming pool. And I say, oh, give me one more apple, mom. And then clean this swimming pool, I will swim there, okay? So he thinks, or let's say we think, that he spoiled something, wasted something. Look carefully what will happen to this apple. Some tiny creatures will come and take it as a food. It will not be wasted. The swimming pool will be dirty, and then it will become a home for other creatures, not for you. From your perspective, it is wasted, yes, but from the perspective of the creation, it's not wasted. It becomes a source for, the nutrition. It becomes a source of, the new creations, whatever. Nothing. You cannot find anything in the creation, no matter how hard you look, that something is wasted. Law of the it will be actually for something else, but law of not wasting, let's say. Okay. And then everything is also recorded. Everything in the creation, no matter what level you look. An electron, its travel, right? Sometimes, a while ago, people used to think that, one particle moves from here to another place. And when you look at the particle, you cannot see any evidence of what, places it traveled. But now people are realizing, no, this is not true. Something about its travel must be recorded somewhere, right? People seeing it at the physical level, at the quantum level, or at the macroscopic level. You look at the stars and you say, what? This and that happened a few billions years ago. We say there's this background, what is it called? Background what? Radiation. What does it mean? I listen to it and I understand what happened a few billions years ago. Right? Same goes with the biology, same goes with the psychology, same goes with the sociology. Doesn't matter what scales you look. You will realize everything is preserved, recorded, right? The law of preservation. Nothing, no exception. Now you put all these laws together and you have this blinking light in front of you that you don't see the source of power. Death, right? That is there, something is blinking in you, right? It is wasted, it is wasted. My life will be wasted. The laws of the not wasting comes. So I said, no, this creation is nothing wasted. You don't see it, yes, but there must be something. It's a promise again. The law of wisdom comes to my help and say that no, in this example as well, because it's a creation again, there must be an instance of wisdom. Look carefully, right? So all these things come together, these laws, my expectations, right? Other examples, then I say that there must be resurrection. And it is as certain as, if we are serious about these laws, it is as certain as when I see light on the sky, that I'm certain there must be some cycle of energy production that, they manifest as a light somewhere inside this star. I'm certain about it, no doubt. With the resurrection even, I am more certain. Why? Because I have first-hand connection to it as well. All these laws plus this private promise given to me in my heart. With the star, I don't have it. With the resurrection, I even have this one. So I'm even more certain about the resurrection than my cosmological understanding of the creation.
Jazakumullah khairan. Any concluding remarks? So this was Maliki Yawmiddin. We studied Maliki Yawmiddin. Inshallah, next week we can continue from Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. There is also some extra text in there. I don't know if you would like to continue from there, but if not, you can take you can read by yourself. We can also continue from there next week. But let's conclude here, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم من الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة